Welcome to Tabletop Tommies Tutorials, helping new and existing players get to grips with Bolt Action 3rd edition. I'm Phil, and in this video we're going to look at how to build an army using the force selection rules of Bolt Action 3rd edition, as well as providing some examples of the different sorts of armies you can build. I'll be using units and points costs from the main rulebook to build the lists, and they will be historically themed rather than finely tuned for tournament play. Okay, let's start by looking at how the new force selection criteria works. For those that have played previous editions, gone are the days of using the generic reinforced platoon structure to build your armies. Instead, armies are now constructed using a combination of the following types of platoons. There's a rifle platoon, heavy weapons platoon, engineer platoon, artillery platoon or artillery battery, armoured platoon, and recce infantry platoon. The rifle platoon is the one compulsory platoon, and for each rifle platoon taken, you may take one each of the other 5 platoons, should you so choose. However, if you want to take 2 platoons of the same type, such as 2 recce infantry platoons, you must take a second rifle platoon, as each rifle platoon unlocks the ability to take one each of the other 5 platoons. Within each of the 6 different types of platoons, some units are mandatory and must be taken to make the platoon legal, whilst others are optional. Okay, so if we look now at each platoon in turn. The rifle platoon is the standard platoon and consists of at least 1 platoon commander and 2 infantry squads, who may not have the engineer special rule. Once this requirement has been met, you have the option of taking up to 2 additional infantry squads, again who may not have the engineer special rule, a medic, a forward observer, a sniper team, an anti-tank team, up to 2 light mortars, and 0 to 1 transport options per unit in the platoon. The heavy weapons platoon is where you'll find your support teams. As with the other platoons so far, you must take 1 platoon commander, and you must take 2 compulsory units. This could be 2 machine guns, 2 mortars, or 1 of each. Once these requirements have been met, you may take an additional 0 to 3 mortar teams, 0 to 3 machine gun teams, 0 to 3 anti-tank teams, and 0 to 1 transports per unit. The engineer platoon gives you access to units that specialise in demolitions, mine and obstacle clearance, and assaulting heavily fortified positions. Your compulsory units are 1 platoon commander and 2 engineer squads, after which you may take up to 2 additional engineer squads, 0 to 3 flamethrower teams, and 0 to 1 transport vehicles per unit in the platoon. The artillery platoon or artillery battery gives you access to howitzers, anti-aircraft and anti-tank guns. You must take 1 platoon commander and 1 artillery unit, after which you may add up to 3 additional artillery units and 0 to 1 transport or tow vehicles per unit in the platoon. The armoured platoon allows you to select tanks, tank destroyers, assault guns, self-propelled artillery, anti-aircraft vehicles and armoured cars. The compulsory units are 1 platoon command vehicle, which must have the command vehicle special rule, and 1 additional vehicle, after which you may take up to 3 more vehicles if required. You'll see from the unit entries in the main rulebook that some vehicles have the command vehicle special rule in their unit profile or as an available option, such as the German SD-KFZ 223. However, if you choose to include a vehicle as your platoon command vehicle which doesn't have the command vehicle special rule or the option to add it in their unit profile, you must pay an additional 10 points to give this vehicle the command vehicle option. The final platoon is the recce infantry platoon, representing fully mechanised infantry platoons. You must take 1 platoon commander and 1 infantry squad, who may not be engineers, and you may then take 0 to 3 infantry squads, 0 to 1 forward observers, 0 to 1 anti-tank teams, and you must take 1 transport vehicle per unit in the platoon. These transport vehicles must have the recce special rule, or they must be given the recce special rule for a cost of plus 10 points per vehicle. The only exception to this is if you choose infantry squads which are mounted on motorcycles or are cavalry. The final thing to be aware of is that you may also add a company commander and a vehicle for this unit, in addition to your platoons chosen. The company commander and its vehicle does not form part of any of your chosen platoons. For further details, see page 183 of the main rulebook. Before we start looking at building some lists, a quick note about transports and tows. If you do select a transport or tow for a unit, it must be able to carry that unit or tow that artillery piece, as specified on page 183 of the main rulebook. For example, if I want to take a Dodge 3/4 ton truck for my US infantry squad, this has a maximum capacity of 8 men, and therefore I couldn't purchase it if my chosen squad had 9 or more men. Similarly, if I want to take a tow for my German medium howitzer, I cannot take a Kessengrad, as this is only able to tow light howitzers, light anti-tank guns, and light anti-aircraft guns. So, to give you an idea of the flexibility and versatility of the new force selection, I'm going to build a US Marine force ready to storm a beach in the Marianas, a British force from Burma representing the Battle of Admin Box, and a German Deutsche Afrika Korps force ready to repel an armoured thrust from the 8th Army. All of these forces will be built up to a maximum of 1250 points. So starting with my US Marines force, I'm going to have 4 platoons, which is going to be a rifle platoon, an engineer platoon, a heavy weapons platoon, and an armoured platoon. It's going to come to a total of 1248 points, and it's going to be 13 dice. So starting with my rifle platoon, I'm going to take a platoon commander at regular and add an extra man for a total cost of 40 points. I'm then going to take 3 Marine squads. These are going to be 8-man squads each. They're going to be regular, and I'm going to add 2 BARs, 2 pistols, and give stubborn to every man in each of the 3 squads. This is going to come out as 102 points per unit. 80 points for the men. The 2 BARs is going to be an additional 6 each, so that's going to be 92. Pistols are going to cost me another 2 points, so that's 94. And then stubborn is an additional 1 point per man, taking it up to 102. So my rifle platoon then, it's 4 dice. It's coming out at 346 points. Okay, for my engineer platoon, I'm going to this time take a veteran platoon commander with an extra man. That's going to cost me 52 points. And we're going to have 2 identical engineer squads. These are veteran, again both 8 men in each. And each squad's going to have 2 SMGs and a flamethrower. That's going to cost me 150 points per squad. I want to give this platoon some transport, so I'm going to buy an LVT-4 Water Buffalo. I'm going to take it at a regular, which is 100 points, and I'm also going to upgrade both pintle-mounted MMGs to pintle-mounted HMGs for additional 20 points. So my engineer platoon is going to cost me 472 points, and it's going to give me an additional 4 dice. Moving now to my heavy weapons platoon. I want to add some indirect firing HE, so I'm going to take a platoon commander at regular on his own for 30 points, and 2 medium mortars, both with spotters. So if we look at the mortar entry, the basic cost is 35 points regular, and that's for a light mortar. I'm then going to upgrade it to a medium mortar for plus 10 points, and I'm also then going to add a spotter for an additional plus 10 points. So each medium mortar with a spotter is going to cost me 55 points. So my third platoon then, it's only 3 dice, it's costing me 140 points. Moving now to my final platoon, which is an armoured platoon. Because I'm representing the US Marines, I feel like I should have an appropriate vehicle, so I'm going to choose the LVT A1 Alligator. I'm going to take 2 of these, so each one's going to cost me 140 points. What I'm going to do though is replace the light anti-tank gun and coaxial HMG with a flamethrower on both vehicles. This is free. However, because the entry does not include the command vehicle special rule, I need to pay an additional 10 points for one of my vehicles and make that then the command vehicle for the platoon. So my armoured platoon, it's 2 LVT Alligators with the flamethrower replacing the armament in the main entry, and an additional 10 points for the command vehicle. This is costing me 290 points then for 2 dice. So in total, I've got 13 dice, 1248 points, and I've got 4 platoons. I've got my 3 squads of Marines, I've got my engineers who are going to be transported in the Water Buffalo, I've got some HE support from my medium mortars, and then I've also got some close support then from my 2 LVT A1 Alligators with the flamethrowers. Okay, next up we have our British Burma platoon representing the Battle of Admin Box. This is also going to be 4 platoons. I'm going to take 2 rifle platoons, an artillery platoon, and an armoured platoon. So starting with my compulsory rifle platoon, I'm going to have a regular platoon commander with an extra man for 40 points. I'm going to take 2 infantry sections, 10 men in each, and I'm going to add an LMG, which is going to be 115 points. These represent the 7th Indian Division. Now moving on to my optional choices, I'm going to take a forward air observer at regular with an additional man for a cost of 85 points, which represents the Spitfire and Hawker bombers that were in support at the Battle of Admin Box. I'm going to take a veteran medic on his own at 30 points, representing the aid station that the Japanese raided during the course of the Battle of Admin Box. I'm also going to take 1 inexperienced infantry section of 8 men, which is going to cost me 56 points. This represents the HQ and admin troops that were caught up in the Battle of Admin Box. The final entry for this platoon is a light mortar team at regular, 2-man team, costing me 30 points. So for this platoon, It's 7 dice in total, and it's costing 471. My second platoon is a rifle platoon, and this is going to represent Gurkhas of the 8th Gurkha Rifles. I'm going to take a veteran platoon commander with an additional man for 52 points, and I'm going to take 2 identical Gurkha sections. These are going to be 8 men in each, and I'm going to give the NCO in both sections an SMG for a cost of 123 points. So this platoon is 3 dice, and it's costing me 298 points. My third platoon is an artillery platoon. This represents the 8th Belfast HAA Regiment of Royal Artillery. I'm going to have a platoon commander at regular with an additional man for 40 points, and I'm going to take a 25 pounder. Now to do this, I need to take a light howitzer option from the British list, and I need to pay for various upgrades. First upgrade is going to give it the 25 pounder anti-tank shells, then I'm going to add a gun shield, and then I'm going to add a spotter, for a total of 65 points. So this is 2 dice in this platoon, 105 points. My final platoon is an armoured platoon, and this represents the 25th Dragoons. I'm going to start with a Humber Mark IV. Now if we look at the entry for the Humber, we need to go to the fully enclosed armoured car entry, and then we need to look under the upgrade options, find the Humber Mark IV option, and that's going to give it then a total cost of 115 points. Now this is going to be my command vehicle, and it doesn't have the command vehicle rule built in, so I'm going to have to pay an additional 10 points to make it up to 125. The next unit is going to be an M3 Lee Mark II. I'm going to take this as regular, and again what I need to do here is look at the Lee and the Grant options in the book, and you'll see the base cost is 220 points. I'm going to select the M3 Lee Mark II. This costs me 30 extra points. It adds a couple of turret mounted MMG. It removes the vulnerable special rule, and this makes it into a Lee 2, costing me 250 points. So the final platoon then is 2 dice for a total cost of 375. I've got 14 dice. It's costing me 1249, and my national characteristic will be Vengeance. Our final example is going to be a German Deutsche Afrika Korps list. Starting with the rifle platoon, I'm going to have a regular platoon commander with an extra man at 40 points. My 2 compulsory squads are going to be here infantry squads. They're going to be regular. The NCA is going to have an SMG, and I'm going to add an LMG to each squad for a total cost of 119 points. Moving on to my options, I'm going to add a 3rd infantry squad, exactly the same build. I'm going to add a forward artillery observer, regular, with an extra man for 85 points. And I'm going to take a light mortar team, again regular, 30 points. So that's going to be 6 dice at 512 points. My second platoon is going to be heavy weapons platoon. And I'm going to lean into the German special rule here. I'm going to take 2 machine guns. So I'm going to start off with a platoon commander at regular with an additional man for 40 points. And I'm going to take 2 medium machine guns at regular, 50 points each. So that's a total cost of 140 points with 3 dice. My third platoon is going to be an artillery platoon, and this is going to consist of 3 units, starting with a platoon commander, regular, an extra man, 40 points. I'm going to take the Flak 88 dual-purpose AA-AT gun at regular. I'm going to add a spotter for a total of 200 points. And then my last unit is going to be a PaK 36 light anti-tank gun at regular, base cost 50 points. That's going to be 290 points for the platoon, 3 more dice. My final platoon then will be a recce platoon. I'm going to start with a platoon commander at regular with an extra man for 40 points. And I'm going to take 2 of the Kratschützen squads. I'm going to have 8 men in each. They're going to be regular, and I'm going to put them on motorcycles for a total cost of 120 points per unit. Now, my platoon commander has to be in a transport vehicle, so I'm going to buy him a Kubel wagon, which is going to cost me 18 points. But it also has to have the recce special rule. Now that option isn't in the unit entry, but I can pay an additional 10 points to make it recce for a total of 28 points. So this platoon then, 4 dice, 308 points. So in total, I've got 16 dice, and I've hit that 1250 point limit. Now, for those players who wish to use their 2nd edition armies built previously to the generic reinforced platoon structure with minimal additional work or expense, it is possible to replicate this with the new force selection criteria. For example, if you're used to running an armoured car and a tank or equivalent vehicle in your previous selectors, you can do this with the armoured platoon. If you used to take a single machine gun and mortar, again you can do this with the heavy weapons platoon. Your single artillery piece is covered in the artillery platoon. Aside from potentially painting up some more officer units, your 2nd edition army built to the old generic reinforced platoon structure will easily map across into the new structure, as well as options to maybe add further units. such as more artillery pieces, more heavy weapons, more armoured vehicles and so on. If you're thinking of adding to your bolt action army, why not use one of our affiliate links, available in the description below. Anything that comes back to us goes straight into making more content for the channel. If you want to stay up to date with all of our videos, do please subscribe, and if you think others would find this video useful, why not give it a like and a share. Ta-ta for now.
Thank you.